Siddiqui, who is an independent scholar and author and a columnist with a specialization in military. She's known for her groundbreaking work on military decisions making, political economy of defense in Pakistan, and theory of military business internationally. The American Institute of Pakistan Studies, AIS, recognized her work by giving an award for her book in 2018. Her work stands out for being bold in taking up issues that such. Yeah. I would like to please come to the stage. Secondly, I would like to introduce my next guest, who is Mr. Dr. Naseer Dashti, who is an intellectual and historian with a PhD in anthropology. He is the leader of Baloch Human Rights Council and the author of various books on the history of Baloch. He has also contributed numerous essays and articles on Balochistan and South Asia region. His most recent work includes the first ever comprehensive Balochi to English dictionary published by Balochi Academy. I would like him to please join the stage. Again, because of the inconvenience, we cannot introduce our third speaker, who is Bibi Gul. I hope she joins soon so I can introduce her to you guys as well. So, as we know that the second session is about the enforced disappearance, I would like Ms. Ayesha Siddiqa to talk about it on her experience and knowledge about Baloch issue.
Can I come here? Yeah, sure. And by the way, it's Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa, not Ms. Ayesha.
Sorry.
Even women can be called. No.
I also want Dr. Naseer Baloch also to join the stage.
First of all, I'm extremely grateful to the Baloch National Movement for inviting me here. Really grateful, and honestly, this is very moving. Some of the images that I saw. I'm certainly not qualified to speak about Baloch suffering or Baloch resistance. You are the experts here, and in many ways, I come to learn about what you have experienced and what you have suffered. I was looking forward to listening to some of the people who were not able to speak because of the technical glitch. But let me show you something that I think that we need to. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So as I was saying, I think that as far as the Pakistani state is concerned, we need to rethink the definition of what is disappear, who disappears. There are people who get physically picked up. There are brothers and sisters, daughters and sons, loved ones. Many of you who are sitting here, whose loved ones have disappeared. You don't know anything about them. And yet, I would say there is a broader definition of disappear. The state tends to silence people. It tends to make your voice disappear as well. There are many of you who are sitting here today who cannot return home. I mean, yesterday when I was picked up from the airport by, some very lovely Baloch young men who are part of BNM, I could see into their eyes, the kindness, the softness, the love, the frustration of not being able to go home, the frustration of not being able to reach out to their loved ones. And I believe that no state, and I'm sure we are in agreement here, no state has a right of depriving people of their land. No state has a right of depriving people of their heritage. It's absolutely brutal. And I think there is no case to be made against states that make voices disappear, that make people disappear. I think we are together, we should come together to raise our voice against any form of disappearance. I mean, look at what is happening in Pakistan. We also have people like a parliamentarian, an elected member of his people, of the parliament, Ali Wazir, who, despite that he's gotten bail in all the cases, is still unable to come out. He's still in jail. And this is what I mean, definitely mean by people being visible perhaps physically, yet they are being forced to disappear. So disappearance, I think, in Pakistani state context has a larger connotation. The silencing, it's the criminal silencing of voices, the criminal silencing of people, and shutting down what they want for their lives, for their lands. I think that is larger definition of disappearance. What I thought I'd do in my 7 to 10 minutes is I'll work backwards. I'm going to talk about, I mean, I was very fortunate in listening to presentations in the morning, like all of you. There was a Kurdish speaker, there was a Uyghur speaker, and then, of course, there's Mr. Laku Luhana talking about sin. But in the process, we also heard, there was Baloch, of course, talking about, and his powerful presentation on Balochistan. So I thought that whatever I learned and whatever I've learned in the course of a few years about what's happening in Pakistan, I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to talk about strategy. And I think it's important that we define a strategy. I think what movements lack, where voices become powerless, is when we don't have a plan and we don't have a strategy. I mean, I was most impressed to see this Kurdish center. The community has managed to come together to set up to pool their resources, to establish this center. They're visible. Visibility is indeed very important. And that is what, as Baloch National Movement, you should be focused on. Visibility. And the problem with Baloch National Movement is that where I think state has been, the Pakistani state has been successful, is, clamping down on visibility of the Baloch movement. And the question I think which we need to ask is that, is it entirely the fault of the state? Or is it something that you are not doing? There is a need to strategize, for your voices to reach out. And I have been having this conversation with Hakeem Baloch here and many other friends with Fahim Baloch who are there in London, and we get together sometimes. That there has to be a visibility of voices. We can all get together amongst our own. We can talk about our sufferings, we can talk about what's happening, we can talk about our loved ones who have disappeared, we can talk about what the state is doing to us. But where is our voice to the world? My dear kind Samul Baloch asked me to talk about, international community and its response. Now, do we really expect international community to respond when the voice does not reach? I mean, I would, for example, and this is something which I have been telling Mr. Laku Luhana as well. I mean, Mr. Laku Luhana and his World Sindhi Forum, Sindhi Congress, the whole meetings, they have a conference every year, and it's like getting the Sindhi people together in one corner of London where nobody is able to see them. The issue is where strategy is needed is for your voices to be heard by the world. Where is that forum? You need to extend your voice, project your voice for the world to hear and see. I mean, I would love to have sessions in, for example, universities in the UK, in SOAS, in King's College, where I'm a senior fellow, in other universities here in Germany, many other places, where the younger generation need to hear about what's happening there. Why just talk amongst ourselves? You know, Hakeem Baloch earlier in the Q&A of last session, I thought raised a very important question. And his question was talking about the Punjabis, and I know that he didn't get an answer. And I think this is what part of strategizing is. You know, you as people, and people have a right, individuals have a right, people have a right to, you know, have their own political goals. If you as the Baloch do not want to be part of the Pakistani state, it's for you to think and strategize, you know, accordingly. I'm no one here to stand and say, no, you should be Pakistan, part of Pakistan, you shouldn't be part of Pakistan. But I think what you definitely meanwhile, I mean, there are two issues here. One is your larger political goal, and the other is the issue of, which is very urgent, which is disappearances. And in that, you need to strategize. You still need to connect with all those other people who are suffering in different parts of that territory which we call Pakistan. Not just sit in one room and talk amongst themselves. I mean, I'll repeatedly say that. So what Hakeem was asking, the answer is that you need to, for example, connect with, while people in Punjab may not have heard about what is happening in Balochistan, there is a media blackout. The state deliberately blocks out, because this is the problem with the structure of the state. It's not just the Pakistani state, but this is the problem with the states that were formed on the European historical formula. And that formula was that an identity has to be deliberately concocted. So even if you're a Baloch, even if I'm a Saraiki, even if somebody's a Punjabi or a Sindhi, instead of having our own nations and having our own nation states, we were brought together to live under one umbrella. And since then, the state has been struggling to create a common national identity out of us, out of these different diverse nations. The fact of the matter is that the Indian subcontinent, which includes Pakistan, these are state nations, not nation states. We are independent nations who have been put together to make a state according to the European formula. But the point is that we still need to connect with wherever people are suffering, so that combined, perhaps at some point, there could be greater pressure asserted on the state, which is not happening at the moment. People are not aware, and I would again disagree with Mr. Laku Luhana. I mean, there was a point where in Lahore or in Pindi, people would talk and protest about the sufferings of people in Balochistan, and that the state curbed. I'm sure many of you younger lot who are sitting here must have heard of Sabine Mahmood. I mean, Sabine Mahmood died because she wanted to talk about Balochistan. Not that, and let me tell you, her agenda was very simple. Her agenda was very simply to allow people the opportunity to talk. She did not necessarily believe in independent Balochistan, but she believed in making people, in letting people sit and talk about it. And what happened to her? Death. University, Lum's Lahore University of Management Sciences, the same year tried to have a debate, a discussion on Balochistan. So, state has been very harsh when it comes to voices. And so, we have a situation where, like ordinarily it happens anywhere else. People would like to shut their ears and their eyes and not see what is happening. I mean, these images which Fahim Baloch showed today, I would rather, and this is the story of your everyday life. Many of you who are sitting here have lost your loved ones. You know that misery. You know the wounds. You know the bloodshed. Why not show this to the world? The world needs to know. People, and be it the people in Pakistan and be it the people outside that territory, need to see. They are the ones who need to see that images. They are the ones who need to repeatedly go through these images to be able to see how important it is for the world to raise your voice, to raise their voice. We need to come together. I mean, let me give you another instance, and to kind of talk about strategy. I remember this was like 2.5, 3 years ago. This is pre-COVID. General Musharraf was coming to London, and there was this a hall was booked for him at this university in London, SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies. And so we tried hard to kind of shut it down, and it happened. But I remember in that same struggle, I asked somebody, I said, this is the time that our Baloch friends or all other friends, Sindhi friends, should come out, protest. Nobody's asking them to kind of be abusive or violent. Stand in the neighborhood where he lives with placards for his neighbors to know that what kind of a criminal entity lives there. Is that hard a propaganda to do? We have to think in those terms. If our imagination is just limited to protesting outside Pakistani high commissions and embassies, then I don't think that we are going anywhere. So we have to think about how do you transmit your messages more. It should be in mainstream societies, in mainstream German society, mainstream British society, French, wherever rights discussions. You should be connected with human rights organizations here wherever you live. This is important how to project your voice. Now let me very quickly come to the challenges. Why a strategy is important? Why do you need to have a plan and not just sit once in a year in a hall amongst yourselves? Strategy is important. A different kind of strategy is important because the Pakistani state, despite all the problems that you see, the security state remains very strong. It's not a weak state. There may be issues between, for example, Mia Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan. People are ready to, and there is an anxiety amongst common people. Even in people in Punjab, there is a resentment against the military power of the military. But is there a leadership to challenge it? And that is where the problem lies. There is no leadership to challenge the military. Still remains the case. And I think there is one of the biggest challenges that we all share together is at the hands of our own elite. You know, the state of Pakistan always says that, you know, what are Baloch talking about? Because there are so many Baloch leaders who are with us. I can say the same about the Saraiki leadership. I mean, Mr. Laku Luhana, again, I'm going to refer to him, was talking about the brutality of the state. I think what he didn't mention was that this brutality of the state includes the Sindhi elite as well, who are in bed with the Pakistani state. And unless we also point out that it's our own leadership. I mean, let me tell you the story of South Punjab or Saraiki Vaseb, where I come from. The floods that we have and how it is badly affected. In Sindh and in Saraiki Vaseb, there are many instances in which the flow of water was turned because to save the lands of certain feudals who are in power. So there is that partnership, and we need to point out there has to be a people's movement. Our elite are one of the bigger challenge. The other, of course, is, as I said, state. And the state, mind you, does not become conscious of rights unless the cost is increased. I mean, today it's a fact that it's a fact that the state is not just brutal, it's also oblivious of the effect it has in the kind of atrocities they carry out against Baloch youth. I mean, I politically am amazed when I see that, maybe a young child would even be able to pick up this thing that the more people you pick up, the more torture that you carry out, the more anxiety you will generate. But the state is so arrogant that it says, I don't care. And so we see Baloch youth in other parts of the country where they go for their education, getting picked up, booksellers getting picked up and disappearing, just for the sin of owning your identity. The state doesn't care. And we also heard in the process, you also need to understand the mechanism of the security state. In the morning, I heard a lot about the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And, it's amazing how the security state plays with that rhetoric as well. To the Chinese, this great game that they think is being played between China and the United States. Baloch disappearances and a violent atmosphere in Balochistan is so perfect to tell the Chinese friends that, look, we would have loved to have more, CPEC projects, but we can't. Because, I can tell you that in London, there are Chinese diplomats who sit and question that why is it, what is it that the Pakistani state cannot handle the political, disturbance, the violence in Balochistan. Even, they are surprised. There are new entities that are being brought in, Recodec is not Chinese. There's Sandec, which is run by Chinese company, Recodec, which is being given without permission of the Balochistan government. without having sharing any knowledge of the contract, the new contract that is being negotiated on Reconnect, but it's a Western company which is being brought back. So there are games that the state continues to play, and I think unless there is a plan, unless there is a pushback, and I can see at one level what the Baloch youth are doing. The cost of conflict has increased to a certain extent, but not to that extent that we can see another Bangladesh kind of a situation or an Israel kind of a situation coming out of Balochistan. I mean, I would say that I've given these two examples, and these are the two examples of countries that were developed, that came out as a result of an insurgency. Are we there in South Asia or in Pakistan where another country is about to be made? And the answer is no, very far from it. And we have other examples like Sri Lanka, for example, where insurgencies have not been able to produce a new state. So it's important to see and clearly examine and very carefully examine that what are the options available. One final point: international community. See, international community is there are moments in history when international communities open up their ears and allow for new geographical or geographical changes to take place. I heard earlier session people crib about United Nations, but this is exactly the problem of United Nations. United Nations will only open up when the circumstances, political circumstances are such that they consider that it's important to hear people. Or to make adjustments or put pressure on sovereign states. United Nations, or there is no entity right now which is ready, to take on the burden or become partner with people who suffer. I think voices have to be raised, and they have to be raised high enough. The tempo has to be so high that international organizations listen. I'm sorry, it's kind of a boring repetition of saying, raise your voice, raise your voice. But honestly, I don't see there's any other option. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayesha. It's really amazing to hear a different perspective towards our movement. I want to invite Bibi Go. She's currently available beside the internet glitch. I'd like her to be on the screen, I guess. Yeah. Thank you. Enforced Disappearances.
Tawar peda ki mani shume kerra.
Pani tawar peda ki?
Shume tawar peda ki mani peda ki. Tawar peda ki. Salam sangathan tawar peda ki. Tawar peda ki mani shume kerra.
जी वो पेड़ा की आवाज पेड़ा की.
Salam sangathan. Mai divane ardiyu ki diyene me sangathani baaz mehnat waran ke ayam Balochistan e jawar wala thani sara e diwan barjan dashta o ade ke diwan Ibrahim maluk ke mehnat waran ke ami diwana sadiyan Balochistan cha 2000 beddat butagi ami ke alat butagam beger ruchi maruchiga Pakistan fauj uda zulm jabr kana gaay Baloch makluk ke sara anchuke magapate Balochistan alat jawaran sara Balochistan tuka e zulm dura ki jab ama wada ke 2000 bindat bute mazhabe bigwa kana ayan tu ka Janin Cho Balochistan Sara Yaksar Kamashin Bistari Adarit Mangush Malati Dasbandi Kana O Agamanika Shumetabana Kapta Macha Shumati Sarpali Ota Munapail Decane Mayalishint Kigalban Yes Semajdar Multimarto Edara Hastan من دسبندی ماہا کے بلوچستان ارچی کے بوگان پرچی بتا ایشانی ثبوتا نت بیارے یوینا انسانی اکانی اویدگے دارہانی سرا را بدیے او ٹائم سرا را دیگ بمان ارچ وقت شنو وقت ٹائم کشی مکارا کانی پرائی کر مارا شمارا کنا گروتا مائی سرا کنا گروتا روچ ما وقت دات کو تملے اپتگی یک یک روچی لازم دات مادو وتی می آہن بگرام گاس بتانا بتانا چوچ سنا بتانا می ٹھیک را بگرا می رپورٹ چا وتی گرام قیمت
Agata same masla karle pura ma baile demo bore o tigi wadanga zaya makne. So ma she Dr. Naseer Dashti tawar kana aga ibadata pata hoti hayaga darshan kante o aga English to kante Balochi to kante gura gesante. Benator.
Bunlar kuamdan butta. Ma se aynı sıra genel tanke marçige session domni session mevzu है या केवा Ayesha के Enforced Disappearances आये माना तशरीफ को डॉक्टर आयशा साहिबा भले Manga Lutang Pacha Pakistan, Makluka Vodka. وجہ چھی بچہ کے اچکاری بغیر وجہ نہ بھی پاکستان کے میں مردمہ گارگور کرنے گئے آئیے ہم یک وجہ ہی وہ ماہاں پاکستانی بتینا مہم ہمیں کار کتگا یہ وجہ ہے کہ دومی جنگ عظیم رنگ سلطنت کالونیل پاورز ایک کمزور بتن وڑے نو وڑیا چوتی قبضہ کتے گئے علاقہ چی درا گئے پلان جوڑ زیادہ تر ملک کے غلام اتنا ایشیا و افریقہ اتنا بھلے ایشیا و افریقہ مستریں کے امپیریل پاورا برطانیہ وہ برطانیہ یہ فوجی یہ اقتصادی اور سیاسی انٹرسٹ یہ علاقہ ہمیں باز تھا کہ نام ہوا یا کو کشار میں قانونی رضا ختم ہے ملک آزاد ہوگا بھلے آئیے اچھے وڑیا یہ ملکانا آزاد کو کیا دنگتا نصب زدہ ایدہ دیکھ کشا فیصلہ کو کہ ماں انڈیا ہاتھی درکا ہے شنگی سرا ہمیں دورانا گلفا کھیل درد کیا دومی میں بد قسمتی شک کے آدمانگا روسا بالشک ریولوشنیت کے گا 15-20 سال بتے گا تو روس بلا ہیں سپر پاوری جو بتے گا آہا یا ہمیں سوشلزم ہو کمیونزم ہے حساب کتاب کون تھا یہ ملک کے امپیریل پاور تن یا کہ ماں ویسٹی گوشیں نشانی سسٹم کیپٹلس سسٹم ہے تو یہ دوئیں سسٹم کہتے ہیں ورنو ہوتا جنگو مڑاتا دنیا ہے سپرمیسی واسطہ تو یہ سندھی گپ پشک کے چائنا ریولوشنی ہوگا آخری دورت تھی کہ چائنیز سوشلسٹ پارٹی یا کہ ماوے پارٹی چونکہ اندر ہوگا کہ 2 سال آن چائنا سرا قبضہ کریں یہ سوویت یونین اور چائنا سوشلزم یہ اچھی چیز تک کہ وسٹا برداشت نہیں تک سیمی آئے گلف تیل کہ تیل ویسٹ انڈسٹریلائز سوسائٹیز آنی ایک سال یا رضا شہر ہے یہ درستین چیزان وجہ چی برطانیہ ہندوستان اچھی درد بلے ہندوستان ہی ہمیں بڑا درد کہ نہ ہندوستان سبزت نہ ادھگے قوم ہمیں صاحبہ ما بلوچم بائی ڈیفالٹ یا دیگر گناہانی وڑا ہم شکتے ہیں دنیا افریقہ ملک بعدین آزاد کو انڈیا آزاد کو سنگاپور ملیشیا انڈونیشیا ماں پدا غلام ہوتے ہیں آئی وجہ ہمیشہ کہ آیا برطانیہ آئیدہ یا قوتی یا کلائنٹ اسٹیٹی روٹتے گا کہ روس اور چین سوشلزم اور گلفا یہ تیل انٹرسٹن ساتھ کا اسی وجہ سے ایک تیوری جوڑ کو کہ ہندوستان کے اچھی مسلمانہ یا قومی ہیں پر غلطی تیوری یا صحیح تیوری آوا پاورفل اسٹیٹ یا یوگو شو مننے نہ مننے کے بٹی ہے وہاں نوارے کے بچی ہے آیا ہندوستان مسلمان قومی جھوٹ کو وہ قومی جھوٹ کو تو آواتی پارٹی جھوٹ کو برٹش امپائر آواتی ڈپٹی کمیشنر آدمان کا ڈپٹی کمیشنر باس طاقت ورکتا ہوں مطلب ڈپٹی کمشنر اور یہ ہوتی ہے لوکل دلار اشانہ یا جاگہ کو تو یہ پارٹی جو کو یہ نام کو مسلم لیگ آرہ گشتش کے تو 1940 قرارداد چا برطانیہ فارن آفیسر چا ڈاؤننگ اسٹریٹ ایک قرارداد ایشان نوشتہ کو اور محمد علی جنہ رضا کہ تو اشیارہ پاس کرنا ہے وقتی پارٹی میٹنگ اٹھائیں مجھے پاس کرائیں ماں ملک کی جوڑ کرنے تربات شاہ کرنے اور یہ مردان ضرورت تو 1940 یا قرارداد پاس کر تو آج تو کا اس جو ڈیمانڈ کو کہ برطانیہ اگر دربیہ چا انڈیا ہے بڑا مسلمان ہے یا ملک کی باید انتدام کہ مسلمان قوم ہے اور ان ای پبلسائزڈ کو برطانیہ اخباراں یورپین اخباراں حساب کتاب میڈیا ہا کہ ہاؤ انڈیا مردم مسلمان قومی آئے ملک کی لوٹ گا دنیا تاریخ اولی مثال ہے کہ یک تحریک کی آزادی ہے مطلب نامہ و انگا پاکستان کتاباں آزادی تحریک ہوتا آزادی تحریک نے یکی قید بو نہ کہ یکی پہنچ بوت نہ یکی جرمانہ بو آزادی تحریک ہما کولونیل پاور آباد چلائیں اور آئیڈیا ودہ ملک جوڑ کو ملک آخری بلوچستان آئیڈیا نہر کے بلوچستان پاکستان شامل کریں صرف پنجاب پہ ایک بھاری اور سندھ اور بنگال ایک بھاری ایسٹرن بنگال اور پٹانہ کم علاقہ کے نارتھ ویسٹ فرنٹیئر پروونس ایشان مجھوڑ کریں پاکستان کہ مجھوڑ کریں یہ اولی آئیڈیا بیسک آئیڈیا ہمیں بھی تھا بلوچستان حساب کتابہ شروع ماننا بھی تھا بلے چب میرے لیڈرانی نابود دیا یا میں آدمان کے کماشانی نابود دیا ایشان چون کو ایشان پاکستان کے تیاری مکمل کو شان لوگ کے سنا بلوچستان ہم بگئے حالانکہ بلوچستان ہے کہ ہم 1876 سے ایک ٹریٹی میں ریٹین ہوتا ہے کہ ایٹرنل فرینڈشپ کے ٹریٹی ہوتا ہے یعنی ختم نبو کے تاخر ابد مانے یک معاہدہ ہی بیتا دوستی ہے کہ بلوچستان را روٹی موقعی سرا کپی یا ڈنی ملکی عملہ کا برطانیہ آئیے مدد تک کم تو اگر برطانیہ ہارا مصیبتی کپی بلوچستان مدد تک کر رہی معاہدہ پہلا وقر اچھے گفتے تھا اور یہ کہ انڈیا فائنل بو سے جون آئے برٹش پارلیمنٹ اعلان کو کہ میں انڈیا در کہاں اور پاکستان جوڑ کر اور میں خان صاحب وحید کے مردم آدمان کے لیڈر سردار ایگال بتا کہ بھئی برطانیہ در آگا انہیں ماوادات ہیں ندم کے عادت کی چو آسانیہ نرسی ایشن یاد دگستا اعلان کو کہ بلوچستان عادت ہیں کھانے نام کو بازار جنڈائی میں کھت پاکستان ایشن شد وائسرائے لوٹائیں تا پاکستان و بلوچستان لیڈر پاکستان لیڈر لیاقت علی محمد علی و پاکستان بلوچستان خان صاحب و وزیری استا انگریزانی چہریا ایجنٹیا یہ شتاں دہلیا واسرائے کو شما دلندے تو بیٹا ہے کہ ماں دراہگان روشن ابو کے خان ابو کے ماں وہاں عادات ہیں چونکہ درکیوں میں معاہدان مطابق عادات ہیں بلے میں لاتی زمین تے کر رہا ابری کوئٹہ چابی اور مری بکتی ریجن یہ ایجنسی کے عہدی گشتگی تلتی یہ خان ہے خان خدادات خانہ لیز طرح دات کتا برطانیہ ہے اور خان اگو کن شما درہگاہ یہ لیز سر زمین یہ پتا وائدے وہ آپ مالکار برسن تو دیگرانا لیس کو تینا کنے تو وہ باڑا سنا دوکتے گا پادا تو مالکار بدائی مالکے گندی رہے باڑا بدلتے گوڑا واسرا وہ کشار رہے آئیر ہو دیئے گی نہیں تا شما چوکنے کہ شما ایلیزے معاملہ پتا ورموتا وہ بیٹھے ہیں زمین دے گا یا بری وتی عادتی ہے صاحب کتاب بیٹھا ہے گوڑا شاہ ہوشار رہے اس ایگریمنٹ کو پاکستان اور ہمسائر با کہ یہ کتابن تو کا یمشن اسٹینڈ اسٹل ایگریمنٹ یعنی ہمارا کی آستے بلی آستے تاکہ دیما ما یک راہ بکرشیں جو اسٹینڈ اسٹل ایگریمنٹ تو کا شان ایگری کو کے کلات آزاد ہیں چونکہ پاکستان ہندوستان کے آزاد ہیں آزاد ہیں بلے لیزے زمین کے استا نشانی اور ڈیفنس ہو فارن افیئرس کے انو برطانیہ گونا ایشانی بابتا گوڑا پتائی بینندہ پاکستان و بلوچستان ہوتی جڑا کڑھا بکنا اور یہ اسٹینڈ اسٹیل ایگریمنٹ کی اردو پہلے پادا برطانیہ شہر نوشتر کو محمد علی جناح و شانک کے شما یہ بلوچستان میلے عدد گوڑا گوڑا ہمیشہ شندم کی دا تو فوج آگ تو پاکستان ابیت بلوچستان آگ مانی گوشہ کے مقصد ہے کہ پرچہ ای ڈسپیرنس بولنا ہے اسیا پاکستان جائز ہے پرچہ کے پاکستان آ رہا اس جواز نہیں کیا بلوچستان سر قبضہ بکا دومی بالوچان تا اما اولی روچا بالوچان تو کاتو کہ ماں پاکستان شامل لگے ماں زبردستی گفتے گی بلے معاشی نمن نو آیا گفتا بلوچستان توگشہ من نمن توگشہ من آدھا تلوچا دیکھے وہ رابطائی دیکھے تعلقی میں وہ پنجابیانی نہیں آئے سنکے ہاں دلک فوج استے ماں کمزوری مردم ہے ماں وہ سنکے میں ورنائی پاد کے نارائی جام جرسائی کا جلوسی کا چمہ اڑانی دی تقریر کا پنجابیانا ایک اب چین برداشت نبی پرچہ کہ آزانن کے ایک اب دیما برو یہ آواز دیما برو ماں پدا اس میں داشت لکن وہ دارگے یقین توجی لیں یا بلوچستان بیداری آج ان کے قوت سرا گارگوری مستے ہیں وشاگستے ہیں اور جو کہ ماس گریوزن یہ ہمستان یہ میں وہ پنجابیانی تعلقاتانی حصہ ہوں تاکہ پنجابی میں سرا کے ماں گارگور بیں نو آدھے گپی کے ماں چی وتی جگہ کڑھا بکنے وتی گارگور یا کمتے بکنے یا اچھے رٹ بکنے کہ ماں ہمارا گارگور کچھ مکنے دومی بار شمع ٹاپک ہے شنگ کے رول آف انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی رول آف انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی اچھی ساری مارا ایک اب زامنٹی کے انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی چیا پیار بشن انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی اسی کے دنیا قومانی کمیونٹی نا مانا لفظ مانا ہمیشہ بلے چونائیں دنیا ہندو 200 ملک کا کیا آزاد تھا باہر تو ہم اسی کے 200 ملکان یا کمیونٹی بھی تو آکے اس پہ اچھا پہ کہ جہاں دنیا طرح لاگو بھی بل چونائیں حقیقت اس کہ انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی کے نمائش ہیں امریکہ برطانیہ اور یورپین یونین جگہ انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی نے سری لنکا نیپال انڈونیشیا صومالیہ یہ عرب ملک یہ انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی حسابہ نہ دنیا انو ہمیشہ نہیں بڑھنا ہے یہ اچھی لوٹا ماوٹ کرنا انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی کے ماگوشی امریکہ و برطانیہ و یورپین یونین وتی فائدہ چاری آچاری کے ماں کاری بکنا یا ایک رسد کرنا بھی دیا افریقہ و ایشیا من اچھی فائدہ رسی آد انو پاکستان را رمال کا نگانا انگت انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی ہے یک سیکشن ہے ہمیں گوشید کے پاکستان ہمارا مدد کچھ کم آوادی کے چائنا کمی ڈکی جنک بلوٹیں یا روس کے انو دیوار ہو گئے ماں آیا پاکستان بیسی جو کچھ کنے یہ خلافہ بلے دومی یک سیکشن انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی ہے ہمیں گوشگائیں کہ نو پاکستان ہمارا ضرورت نہیں پاکستان لائبلٹی ہے پاکستان شکل اللہ رمال کلی چمہ پاکستان ہمارا دھوکہ دیے گئے ہمارا افغانستان بیدتی کتا ایٹم بمبے جوڑی کتا یہ انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی ہے نفع فائدہ گا اگم ایکسپلائٹ کت بکن گوڑا بلکہ ہمارا چیزی دستہ کا پرچہ کہ انو کے پاکستان ہے یہ پاکستان یا کسابیہ سکرات ہیں پاکستان نو پدا چیک شاہ حجی کہ پرلانی بمباوی بانور نبی آج انچو گوشت کے یک سالی 1.5 سال بعد بینکرپٹ بھی اور دیکھیں بینکرپٹ بھی گڑا یہ پرشت پروش پروسیس سخت تیز بھی بلکہ 2 سالہ نجتی رو کسی سال نجب بالے پادا برجاہ نبی مسئلہ اسے میں واسطہ مسئلہ اسے کہ برطانیہ سلطنت پروش دنیا عادت بو صومالیہ ہم عادت بو ماں پدا غلام ہوتے ہیں مسئلہ اسے کہ پاکستان و پوشی دوری ماں چون بھی آورتی ماں پدا غلام ہوتے ہیں کہ میں خان و میں لیڈرانا یہ دانت نیس تک کہ برطانیہ بلکہ مارا عادتیہ میل آخر وقت تک کہ خانہ ہوتی وزیر رادہ برطانیہ کے پاکستان منا جنگاہ منا سیراب دے چھوڑا دانتے کہ وہ پاکستان ہماری وہ پاک مہاگاہ کہ منا تربی چاہ انچو ہوشمان نیستا ہمیں سابا اگم میں لیڈر و میں پولیٹیکل کیڈر رہا انو اگا ہمیں ہوشمان مبی یہ پاکستان اگر چیزی بھی تھے اور ایمیننٹ ظاہریں کہ بیتے نوکس داشت نہ کہا یوروپ و امریکہ و برطانیہ ٹیکس پیئر مخلوق در نبوجی تو پاکستان آرہ ندن انچو نمیرو ندن دی کم بلکہ لطین سالہ اور نہ کہ عرب شیخ کہتے ہیں امریکہ کو شکر سرہ نو آوڑا پاکستان آرہ زار کی دیا لگا پشن کہ ماں چی تیاری کرنے گئے اگر نقشہی دکی جوڑو بھی اگر میں عادتی غلامی فیصلہ دی ہمیں انٹرنیشنل کمیونٹی کے امریکہ و برطانیہ و یورپین دنیا نا امریکن ماں آیا چونکہ ڈاکٹر آشا کو کہ ماں ہوتی آبادت چھے بڑا اشانہ برسینے کہ اب ماں ہم ادا کرتے ہیں رہن سلا ای ملک میں گئے جو ہمارا 1 سالہ غلام کتا 7 سالہ انگریزان کتا 8 سالہ پنجابیوں کتا نو بس سے نو مارا وتی ملکہ مارا بیدیے شما اچھی لوٹے بدین آوتے کے چیز نہ لوٹا آوتے لوگ ایسو ہر لوٹا چنائیہ برمتی اب جاتے ہیں شب حضور ہے مارا وتی ملکہ بیدیے بلے ایک گستے سسٹمیٹکلی اور ریپرزنٹیٹیو باڈی ذریعہ ہمارا یہ جاگہ اپروچ کرنے گی نمان برو تو برو ڈگری برو تو کہے تو بلوچے نمائندہ نہیں بلوچانی نمائندہی ہے توجیل کرنے بلوٹی اگم انٹرنلی ملک تو کا یہ پاسیبل نہیں بلے ماں کے ڈننا نشتگی ماں تقریبا 1000-2000 مردم بھی یوروپا نارت امریکہ اگر ماں ہمیں دا بتی یک اچھے یک چیزیں جو کچھ بکن ہیں وہ مطلب پرسسٹنٹلی वो लॉजिक का ये मर्दमान लोग बुकते हैं कि यानी पॉलिसी मेकिंग इदारा हैं यानी पार्लियामेंट हैं यानी गवर्नमेंट ने इदारा हैं कि वजह शुमा ये मुल्क जो को तशार ने माव नारा वाला को तदस्तात साला तशार ने शुमा वाजिब थे बोले लोग मुल्क को शगाने शुमा मारा भविष्य के शुमा गोमा चुन करें अगर माशाल्लाह कन्विंस को कि अब एक बलूचिस्तानी वेस्ट इंटरेस्टानी खिलाफा नहीं गोड़ा मारा बल्कि तो क्राइटेरिया दरसी अगर ना पाकिस्तान खुशियों मादर उन्हें के मादात में बे अगर मारा वतारा ये मर्दमन के रा तेज नदाश के अब मावती मुल्क संभाले माताई इंटरेस्ट हम संभाले मावती गरीबिया करें तो इस सिचुएशन है बाद में पॉलिटिकल लीडर मैं पॉलिटिकल वर्कर एक पबिजानन के बगैर सिस्टमेटिक कारण बगैर ही टंगुदरानी दग्गे जगह मैं साहब किताब हमारे बंक के बर्तानिया सुल्तानत मशगान बुतन थैंक यू बस I just repeat what we have systematically about बटन बंद एक
pada dia pelas mengenai कि अच्छा ये सवाल अस्ते कसिया तो डॉक्टर या डॉक्टर आयशा या डॉक्टर नसीर बच्चा शुमा अगर सवाल अस्ते आई डॉक्टर आयशा ने कहते वो किसी बात करते ताकि जवाब दे बेटा प्लीज एक सवाल जोश लेके
Doctor, she spoke about the Punjabi nation. They don't know nothing about what's happening in Balochistan. So my question is, what I see is Punjabi nation is getting benefit from whatever is happening in Balochistan, like human rights violations. How do you see that? If they know, how they will score us? Do you think they will score us?
Sorry, can you repeat yourself?
Yes. Can you hear my voice?
No,
Can you hear my voice?
Thank you. My question is simple. Whatever is today is happening in Balochistan, human rights violations, killing in, I see army operations. Punjabi nation getting the benefit of that, living good life, and as you see, Punjab is developed very well, like Balochistan. So how you can see that Punjabi nation will support us, and they are getting benefit from the Balochistan human rights violations? It's all clear.
See, my response to this is that there are two ways of looking at it. Firstly, if people in Punjab, larger Punjab, are not aware of what's happening in Balochistan, then the question is, are people in Balochistan aware of what happens in Punjab? So firstly, and these are two issues, different issues that I'm talking about. For example, I'm sure many people don't know when farmers, landless peasants in Okara were shot dead by the Punjabi military. Now, the fact is that what you're saying is correct, that the elite in Punjab who benefit from the state will have zero interest in sympathizing with what is happening, but not all of Punjab is the elite. See, if you look at Punjab geographically, the Saraiki Vasait is also part of it, right? We suffer, in fact, it's so painful that while there are people who are raising voice, post floods, people are raising voice for collecting money for Balochistan, collecting money for KP, collecting money for Sindh. Nobody really collects money for the Saraiki Vasait. A lot of times the argument is, well, they're part of Punjab. We're not beneficiaries of, whatever is there in Punjab. Now, the long answer is simply to say, and what I'm trying to tell you is that just because the elite in a certain region benefit from the loot and plunder in Balochistan, yes, Balochistan is being looted. There's no question about it. But this is where I think is a weak strategy. I would still, as a political movement, I would still want, and I would still encourage, the idea that, can you please let me have a CN, please? See, I would still encourage you to think about talking about your case, about what happens in Balochistan. The idea is not to convince. The idea is not to either become Pakistani nationalist or something else. But it's part of marketing your case, and it's important wherever it has to be made. Even if you don't expect 100% sympathy, but there are so many millions of other people who suffer, who need to understand very clearly what the state does, and that you're standing up and that you're fighting because the state is unfair. That case needs to be told and to be sold wherever there is an opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other question?
Yes.
Yes, please.
A question to Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa. Firstly,
Mr. Mako,
we thankful that you are between us and giving us your precious time. It means a lot. Means a lot to us. So in your speech, that you mentioned that regarding UN, you said that UN has to get pressurized so that they can stop the bloodbath that's going on in Balochistan. Why do we have to pressurize? Are we waiting for a certain stage that Balochistan will get into a massacre or bloodbath and then we'll indulge in it, or because it's already in a bloodbath? And if it's because of the UN has interest with Pakistan, so what we can do so that they can lose their interest with Pakistan? Thank you very much.
My dear channel, there is a reality of global politics, and you can't negate that reality. You see, there is nothing like morality in politics. Right? Now, UN needs to be moved, not because there is a morality, because you have to create that morality. See, when, for example, the Sinhala state in Sri Lanka started to kill Tamils, people protested, people raised their voice, it became noticeable for the UN to then say, yes, there is something happening. I mean, I remember late Asma Jahangir was then sent by the UN. I mean, she was commissioned by the UN Secretary General as part of the team to go and study human rights atrocities in Sri Lanka, right, in Tamil areas. Now, that kind of a situation doesn't happen automatically. You know, my insistence on your need for a strategy is because when we sit amongst ourselves, we think that the entire world, because we understand what is happening, so the entire world automatically understands what is happening with us. No. And part of the battle that you need to fight, you as young men and women with ideas, you have to apply your brain in order to make the atrocities and the pain that people in Balochistan go through every day visible to the world. Unless you do that, no one will notice. There are so many conflicts which happen around the world. Yes, of course. Technically, Pakistan is a full member state of the United Nations. But if you look at all those instances where sovereign states who are members of the United Nations were pulled up and asked questions at the UN, they were also member states. What I'm asking you to do is for your issue, for the Baloch issue to become noticeable to the world. Right now, it's hidden in small circles. It needs to be raised to that level that where people say that no, the Pakistani state needs to be questioned, it needs to be pushed back. I hope you understand this.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much for mentioning me in your speech earlier and responding to the previous question. So I will have one more question from you that may be a comment plus question, and then I will have a question from Dr. Naseer Dashti, and I request him to respond in English as well, so most of us will understand. So you obviously, while you were responding to the young fellow there, you mentioned morality, reality, and obviously the strategy we need to have, like how we can spread our message in a broader space or get attention of the United Nations. But let's say what we see, what we know about our movement and this gathering here, where a beautiful number of Baloch women are sitting. I don't think so it was possible a couple of years back. So, and while you mentioned this Kurdish community hall, this is, I think the speaker mentioned there are like around 1 million or over 1 million Kurds living only in Germany. 1 million. I don't think we are like more than 1,000 in Germany, and they just recently settled there. That's just wanted to comment on this bit. But secondly, like yourself, you mentioned we most of the time discuss many things, various things, but when it's come to Balochistan's issue, like there is a avoidance. I'm not directly pointing at you because I know you are with us. You are sitting here talking about our issue, but there are many friends, like they actually sound like they are friends to Baloch, they are understanding the Baloch cause, but when there are times that we don't have to tell them like there's a big issues going, let's say Ziyarat incident, around 11 missing persons were killed, one of them were somehow brought back by the Ayesha and told he was in Iran, but that's a different story. But there was a incident that did not get like a good writing from a scholar. I would sum this with maybe Ayesha Siddiqa, if not some others. But this is something like we in a way need from the scholars. Yes, I personally believe that what you said about the elite is responsible, but not the majority. You have a better reach to the majority than Dr. Naseer Dashti, than Dr. Naseem or the BNM, because somehow they read you way better. This is because of obviously your hard work. So I want you to respond back to that bit. And Dr. Naseer has mentioned in his speech a lot about how our previous leadership, funnily given up Balochistan thinking that the British colony will help us. So if time comes and when it comes, and hopefully it will come soon, that our enemy will finish or we get our freedom. And you said we need to create something that give a sense of hope to the Western country or international community. How, as an intellectual, you are thinking to bring that idea? Maybe you have said that, maybe you have an idea. How are you going to approach that to the political parties? How are you going to approach that to the different part of the Baloch society? Thank you.
What's up? Let me tell you this personal story. I mean, I used to have a regular column in Express Tribune, right, Pakistan. And I started to notice that every time there was a mention of Balochistan in my column, Balochistan would get deleted, right? And so there comes a point when you realize that this is not what they want to write about. And I have also been a victim of silencing, not a different kind of a disappearance. I mean, for example, Pakistani media will not cover me, right? And it's a promise that whatever opportunity I'll find, I will write about whatever happens in Balochistan. And as part of that promise, I think what we need to do is coordinate a bit more. So if there are noticeable events and you bring it to my attention, I'll make sure that I work on it and do something. I'm definitely somebody who is sympathetic to to the pains and that Baloch people feel. And let me tell you, I was so moved and touched to see young, not so young men and women here, right? And I can empathize. I've been away from home for 5 years, and I can't go back. And I know how it feels not to be able to see loved ones. And then on top of that, to hear that they are killed or tortured and they are missing, I think that in itself is very painful, and I can understand. See, one just last thing before I hand over to Dr. Saab is that, listen, I mean, you have to have a strategy where your understanding and imagination of, for example, issues of language, etc. Languages are all mediums. Don't stop somebody from using the Urdu language because it is something encouraged by the state, but it's just a language of communication. The more your message is spread out, the more important it is.
मंगो तो थ्रू चार्टर पेश करेंगे हमें के मसला का बांध और उसी में मुल्क आजाद भी आई राबंद राष्ट्रीय मतलब इंग्लिश लाते मर्दों अस्तन
What I was trying to say or convey that this issue of enforced disappearances or kill and dump policy is the part of the bigger issue. The main issue for us is to how to get our independence in case this Islamic Republic of Pakistan collapses in near future. That's why I gave the example of 1947 when British Empire collapsed. Every nation in the surrounding region, they became independent, but we became the slave of Punjabis. So in that case, to avoid this repetition of historical injustice to us, to our next generation, we have, as Dr. Ayesha repeatedly conveying to you, that there must be a strategy. And that strategy should be followed by our political leaders, political parties. We can go to the UN, to European Parliament, to British Parliament, to American Congress, that look, we have been victimized, our persons are being killed, and our people are being disappeared. This we can as human rights groups, but to present the case of Balochistan is not our task. This is the task of the Baloch nationalist parties, whether they are outside the country or whether they are inside of the country. I think we should broaden our view. The idea of presenting one political group or another political group as the representative of the Baloch will not work. It didn't work. For the last 15 years, we witnessed this. So we should reformulate our strategy to create at least an umbrella group which includes all political groups, parties, personalities who talked about Baloch and Balochistan. We should not be selective. We know the people who are being hired by Pakistani intelligence agencies. We all know Balochistan is an open society. We can discard them, but we should reach out to those people who are 20% with you, 15% with you, 50% with you, or 90% with you. In that case, you can be able to make an umbrella group. We have witnessed this in Africa. In India, Indian National Congress was not a homogeneous group. There were communists, there were socialists, there were nationalists, there were fascists, there were Hindu extremists. But the common point was the independence of India. That was the same case with African National Congress. There were people who believe in armed struggle only. There were people who were communists. There were people who were socialists. There were people who were nationalists. There were people who were religious oriented. But they come into one umbrella group to fight against the oppressors. So I think we have to, when I say we, I mean the political class, that it is high time. And time will not wait for us, for our decision. Things will go on their own way. We will be left behind. So if we want to go to the same pace as the events are going, then our political elite must form an umbrella group and reach out to the international community, which doesn't mean UN. It means United States, it means United Kingdom, it means Germany. Germany means European Union. So if we can approach with logic, with reasoning to these people, they are also a section of their bureaucracy and establishment. They are fed up with Pakistan. It is not that there is a genuine or overwhelming thinking that Pakistan should remain at all cost. They think of their interest, their strategic and financial interest. When they can bomb Yugoslavia and create 5 countries, why they should stick to Pakistan? Pakistan is not their cousin. Yugoslavians were their cousins. So if they see some interest or some threat, they will act. So we should exploit these weaknesses. This is what I was trying to say.
Just one intervention. I think, you need to also look at, while you're thinking of how to move forward, also look at how, the political class and also ordinary people in KP are conducting their political struggle. There is Manzoor Pashtun, who talks about who was a movement. There is Mohsen Dawar, who wants a political party. They don't agree with each other at all. In fact, in a recent seminar, Manzoor Pashtun said that he's got nothing to do with Mohsen Dawar's political party. Yet, on the cause of how people in KP are treated, the case of disappearances, etc., they are together. And I think this is what Dr. Naseer Dashti is also talking about, that wherever you are, whatever you are, the political process has to represent your voice.
Is there any more questions? Yeah, sure.
First of all, I want to thank Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa and Dr. Naseer Dashti that you take your precious time and joined us. I have a question for you, Dr. Ayesha Siddiqui, that if we look, there are also many Baloch women activists in Pakistan and outside of Pakistan. If we take an example, Karima Baloch, she was killed outside Pakistan, and there are also many other activists in Pakistan who were also killed, and they were also abducted or raped, we can say it. And on the other hand, it was Malala Yousafzai. She got, also I can say she was shot, but not to death, she's still alive. And the way she got attention, and on the other hand, if we see Karima, and I don't think so that we didn't raise enough voice for us, because we tried our best, we did protest, we did everything, and I think so that situation with Karima was highlighted. But if we think, do you think, I just want your opinion, what is your opinion on UN? Because if we say, because UN, the way she got attention, and on the other hand, Karima, because she didn't get much. And if we see how they both did, what they did, they both did activism. If we see, and on the other hand, Malala, how she ended, she's just living a, I can say, elite life. And on the other hand, Karima, she's not with us. So I want your opinion. What do you think? And I think the UN gave her attention and gave her everything they could. And for Karima, they did nothing.
Just one thing that I want to add on her question, that it's in the past, what happened to Karima. For me and for her, the young activists that are trying their best to leave our schools and come to these protests and to these halls, this is not our job, first of all. As young people, this is our time to explore more. What we are doing right now, sitting in these halls, in front of such majority of men, talking about all the problems except women. What do you think we should do more in future to highlight what is happening with women in Balochistan? Because of course the men are being abducted, but also the side effects of men being abducted, the patriarchal society that we live in, it affects more to the women than it does to men. Because they're just abducted and they're gone, they're dead, which is horrible, but it also affected the whole life of women. They can't remarry because they don't know if their husbands are alive or dead. Even if they know that their husbands are dead, they can't go marry because we live in a society that taboo the second marriages, or taboo to leave their man and the whole house to go and start a new life. So what do you think that we should, me and her, for example, do that we don't end up like Karima? Or we better be better than Malala. I met her when I was in Sweden. I was in the climate commission in the United Nations, and I met her. I saw that she was actually living the elite life. We might not agree on that point, but what I saw, what I was being treated and what she was being treated. She had guards with her. She had a whole propaganda with her that she could follow. What should we do that we do more than her and don't end up like Karima? What are we lacking for women? Why are this side of the bench is just for women and they're not sitting the other side with men, with their kids? Why we see that the majority is men here over here? Do you think we're lacking something in Baloch National Movement Party that we're not attracting as many as women? Maybe young girls, maybe women that don't have that kind of confidence because they lived such a patriarchal society in Pakistan, and now coming here, for them it's a big switch of environment. So do you think how can we interact and attract more young women and girls in our movement? Thank you.
First of all, I am very proud of you for asking this question. And as long as there are girls like you, girls like her, there is hope, for the Baloch society. So very proud of you. Let me get back to the first question about Malala versus Karima, and I understand where you're coming from. See, Malala was again a beneficiary of a moment. The global establishment wanted to pick up on a young woman and make her the focus against the Taliban. So, and the Pakistani state itself wanted to benefit. So, she is a beneficiary. She is benefited, her image is benefited, but she is also a beneficiary. Let's be very clear on that. As far as Karima was concerned, Karima was not the story for the international establishment or for the international community. Definitely not for Pakistan, right? See, as young women who are standing here and also young men, what I want you to do in your years is understand the theory of geopolitics. Please, there are a lot of emotions here today, and it's not bad, I understand it. If I were you, if I was suffering like you, I'd do the same. But for this uphill task that you are confronted with, you need to arm yourself with the analytical tools which at some point in your life will present you with opportunities that you can then use for the betterment of your community and your people. Now, if emotions is all you will have, it's not going to work. You have to be able to know when to use the system to your advantage. You know, there was, I mean, I hope you understand the story of how, you know, Malala Yousafzai was produced. I mean, there is this very good friend of ours who is currently in Prague. He used to be in working for BBC. And he is somebody who's very, very sympathetic to, the Baloch people, the Baloch movement. He understands them. But at that point in time, when there was Taliban, he was searching for somebody, a young girl, who could tell the story. And it just happened that Malala's father was there and there was nobody else who wanted to do it. So he offered his daughter. So, then she started writing this Gul Makai's, the story of Gul Makai, by this fictitious name. She wrote it, part of it was written by her father or something. So they could create this character. But forget about Malala. There have been in the past, there has been Anne Frank, right? There's been Anne Frank in the Netherlands, a young Jewish girl who wrote about, at a very young age, wrote about atrocities against her. Then when the Bosnian crisis was happening, there was a 13-year-old Bosnian girl called Zlata. So if you ever get a chance, read Zlata's diaries. They'll be available there. Think about it. You girls need to rise where you become noticeable for the world. Once you become a big fiction writer, a big scientist, big political scientist, something where you're noticed. And, let me be very clear on one thing. This is a long battlefield. I know that something is started in Pakistan, which is an armed battle. There are now more Baloch young men and women who are ready to fight. So, something may come out of it or may not come out of it. It's a long battle, be very clear on that. But what you need as part of that battle is clarity. And what makes you different from the rest of the society there? I think, what you were pointing out, I think you need to modernize yourself conceptually and socially. You're very right. I mean, look, I tell you, it's coming from London, and where sometimes I also happen to sit down with Pakistani leftist circles. And there you have the same problem. The women complain, when they sit down, they always have meetings in pubs where women can't come, right? There are lesser women. When they come out for meetings, they don't bring their women with them. So that kind of modernity, even if your men folk are not ready for it, you women in Balochistan have done a lot, but there's more that needs to be done. And I think that essential modernity, and again, just very quickly going back to your question, look, Karima couldn't be Malala, but that Malala moment has to be found. You have to create a character, and you'll have to find ways to create a character which is then owned by the international community. I mean, don't get lost in UN versus US or EU, YEVO, whatever. No, don't get lost in these things. What you have to find is create that moment where international imagination or international community or parts of international community, the antennas get switched on and they say, here is a Baloch man or here is a Baloch woman. They're telling a story and there is something important to it and we need to own it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, please show.
Mecca.
Yeah.
Malala Karima का context जुदा है और डॉक्टर आशा प्रभुष भाई आगे गप्पे मकसद गप्पी कुशां के मैं सोसाइटी यारे बलूचिस्तान हम उड़ना गप्पी फैशन की के जने ना बराबरी है हक ना फैलने so but दुनिया का कौन जमहूरियत कुछ में बर्तानिया ना बर्तानिया जनेना ना वोटे दिए गए हक कदर रस्ता 1928 चिया पर्चा जैसा 80 साल डेमोक्रेसी आई चीज social changes societal progress e agosha nabi per demand kanaga nabi ishe wasta our context our halat our cheez ke jodba to society to change bhi to tai mar da tasawwur kutak kehte hain da barlena moderation even che moderation ka नहीं ना पर हमें वर्ड हमें बता इधर यूरोपा अन्नु जाने मर्दे ने बारी फर्क के नहीं पर तो जाने कभी बता सेकंड वर्ल्ड वार रन हमें सोसाइटी के हाईली इंटेलेक्चुअल जिसे हमें फ्रेंच सोसाइटी हमें जर्मन सोसाइटी के कम्युनिज्म सोशलिज्म लिबरलिज्म ग्रुप चंदा दर्द का हमें ब्रिटिश सोसाइटी के डेमोक्रेसी चमुदा दर्द का पर्चा सेकंड वर्ल्ड वार अच्छी सारी जने ना बराबरी हक नरस्ता वो पर्चा सेकंड वर्ल्ड वार रन फॉरन जने मर्दन बराबर बितना हालात सेकंड वर्ल्ड वार के बिता मर्दन सज्जन बितना फील्ड जंगा नो फैक्ट्री हॉस्पिटल ड्राइविंग ये द्रोस जने ना दस्ता जाने दस्ता बिता जाने ने पावर बितेगा जाने ने दस्ता तो आवादे के दस्ता ₹1000 तरह पावर रसी अमिचो दर के जाने ने मार्क कट्टी अमिचो जाने ने कट्टी दो बराबर बन ये पर डिमांड आ नबी ये पर सेमिनार आ नबी मौका मावड़ा क्रिएट भी अमिचो एजुकेशन के तो ती जनकार दी बचकार दिया अमिचो ती जनकार दे जनक को बच के दूर के और ये मैं बरूच सोसाइटी ये सोसाइटियां 200-300 साल पुष्टा है मो उधर तो रवे कोलवा दाश तो बेलहा तो उधर तकरीर को तनकने के जमीन मर्दी पर्चे बराबर ना अब जमीन मदाना में बराबर नहीं काटूक मर्दी ना अच्छे बराबर ना हमारी जमीन कच्चे जमीन बराबर भी हमेशा ये दोस्तें चीज़ानी कंटेक्स्ट समझे चूँकि मलाला को ये करीना कंटेक्स्ट जुदा इंटरनेशनल के एस्टेब्लिशमेंट मलाला बड़ा कुता करीमा अच्छा बड़ा भी कर करीमा पाकिस्तान तो इवन तो पाकिस्तान इंटरनेशनल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट दोस्त भी था अच्छे वो तकलीफ पे काम यार देखे चेंज ये चीज़ दाना को लूटना
Just one second. You know, you're more lucky than I am. You at least met Malala. Malala wouldn't see me. Just one more point. You know, about 15-20 years ago, there was an international academic, Selig Harrison, American, who used to write about Balochistan. Since then, there is no international academic who writes about Balochistan. And I think those kind of partnerships are important, very important. I've seen it happen, and I'll tell you something. It's so interesting that there is a similar problem with the Kashmir issue. that there is today no international scholar of stature in the West who talks about that issue. Locally, of course, people talk about it, but probably maybe one of the things that you need to think about is how to find somebody big enough in the international academia to start talking about Balochistan again.
I think Selig Harrison was commissioned by CIA in late 70s because of the insurgency in Balochistan, and it was the time of Cold War. The CIA was exploring options whether they can find some favorable political group or national entities to use against the Soviet Union. And that is why they hired Selig Harrison. And now, if there is no international academic to highlight the Baloch issue, because there is no one to hire them, we can't afford. We Baloch can't afford the.
Dr. Saab, you can't hire genuine academics. Nobody can.
Everybody is saying here.
That's Selig Harrison maybe, but what I try to point out that however he came about, there was Selig Harrison. Now there isn't any. I mean, one has seen Ilan Pape, for example, talk about. He writes about the Palestinian issue. So, and I'm not saying that I'm asking you to hire. I don't think you will have the resources. Number one, and number two, I'm asking for genuine scholarship there.
Thank you so much. Is there any other question? Yeah.
Practically, Baloch political party, Ayesha Baloch Mutasiri Gurta, Europa, diaspora, electronic money, Messi, American Kerala, Pakistan, Chukwai, other than Mission Saman, Pakistan, Kurdischen, but the Baloch are Rastakana. So, E. Marduma, Mutasiri, Marsh and Canvas with Nagarina. We have Javel was pushing much after the Baden Jalna, and say, I'm a Jahari Satara to Vichari, Oshi Akbar Bayana Kana, to the Pilani, the beauty Tayari, Mahula, and that President. But Amali Tora, every city, this Gendagan, to be Balochistan in the ground, the Jangi Gogai, Machijan, Anche Alati, respect to one of Jana Bambi, one the Dorka, there's Albuna, Bona, Janga. What am ground to get it Tayari, but a Hamas is the political party, NGOs, human rights, and whom after reacting with Mukta Naman Mumakar Karagana, each one is the case to turn to Amali Tora, that is the Wakisha million so working Pakistan, make much use of Karena. Okay, Padamara Gulam or Mabani Baruti, Choktan to Mako Shari, and no Waki to the Gendaki is the Canada, which is the political is the benefit. What is your much more get coming?
I say Asia a political cadre, the Madani, political leadership is a Madani. Ja, a Archmulki Archcomia national liberation struggle with the colonial power, Watiham change of Kutana, nationalist parties of Wati, Gorilla, for some Kutana. Africa history manta Angola Portuguese Wati yak chene jod kuta Gorilla party jod kuta Britain Rhodesia jod kuta South Africa Zuluan or government Salah Melada aha Wati Gorilla organization jod ko Gorilla organization jod ko आप वती असली मर्दमान के खिलाफ Portuguese आणि इंग्लिश के खिलाफ जंगिश ना को Baluchan to Kaham, Ami Vade situation, Aste, Yadema, Balki, Pakistan, Jur, Gorilla Force. Ahana identify connect the Rudi, Bale, Adige Marduma, Kalapik, Kanara, Ustata, Tixio, Shaman, Latindo again. By the Shinke political leadership, Dana Yatuka, Asian approach because national liberation struggle at Harchwadi Mardumi Kari. National liberation struggle at Daruni Nike, Atmardumi, Sad kilo wasn't just become. Lati Yakilo chest become. Many would have punch kilo chest become trained to be. To Mana Avati Dure Mutabka Karbi. तो वरना है तो 5 किलो चिस्कुट करना मतलब 5 किलो बेलटा ये दृष्टि चीज अगर होश बहुत मैं पॉलिटिकल संगठन मानगु कोई मदनी ग्रानी कार्य नहीं अगर ना मैं पॉलिटिकल कैडर और मैं लीडरशिप रबुद्धगम अब हमें बड़ा किबुद्धगम हमें बड़ा चल
Lagi sawala? नहीं बुरा डॉक्टर नसीमा को नस्बती करना क्या होती आखिरी लफ्ज़ां का उश्मीरा मैंने तो
I would like to thank all the guest speakers, the participants for taking out their valuable time and being present here in our today's conference. Firstly, I would like to talk about the current situation of Balochistan and about the historical injustices of the Pakistani occupation. As our other speakers mentioned here, among the many issues the Baloch people face today under Pakistani occupation, the most compelling issue is of the enforced disappearances and of the kill and dump policy, and today it includes the fake encounters. In the month of July, Pakistani army killed 11 previously abducted persons in a fake encounter. Then 7 of them were identified as missing persons who were already listed in that list, and their cases were registered in the Pakistani courts also. The relatives of the missing persons stayed strict and protest in Quetta, which continued for 50 days till 8th September. Their demands are, we can say their pleadings were simple. They demanded the recovery of their loved ones who were missing for years. And their second demand was very innocent. They demanded not to kill their loved ones in the encounters. In this set protest, in Quetta, Balochistan. We saw sisters and mothers of the missing persons protesting with their infant children. We saw weak and ill children without shoes. Their mothers were holding them in one hand, and on the other hand, they were holding a mic, crying for their loved ones. This, we all saw the situation. This was the situation of Seema Baloch, the sister of Shabir Baloch, who is missing since 6 years today. Missing Dr. Dimama's daughter, Sami Baloch, who was also a part of this sit-in protest in Quetta. She joined the protest just after being injured in a battle charge by the police in a protest in Karachi. We all know Dr. Dimama is missing since 30 years, and her daughters are protesting for his safe release for the last 13 years too. Despite their legitimate demands and continuous cries, they were not heard. In the beginning, I mentioned fake encounters, though it is not a new practice. It is part of this genocide which is being carried out there. We can see there are different experiments continued in the Baloch genocide at different times. In the 1970s, entire villages were burned and thousands were killed in a day. This genocide, this ethnic cleansing and elimination of our identity, our culture, our language is a deliberate, systematic and calculated one. The genocide does not happen just out of thin air. The roots of this genocide are deep in the foundation of Pakistani existence. As I mentioned earlier, in the 1970s, Pakistan did not have a scientific method of conducting a genocide, even though they had genocide as a long-term planning and policy. But this changed during the Musharraf regime. Firstly, their focus was to eliminate the intelligentsia of Balochistan, of Baloch nation, to exploit the resources, to take control of the vast coast, and to starve the people out of education and food. As I mentioned, in the Musharraf era, the people were tortured and interrogated to get to know their ideological view. A few people were released after severe torture. Others who were more learned intellectuals, lawyers, were identified as to be having an ideology that did not resonate with the Pakistani version, they were killed. In the PPP government, we observed notorious policy of kill and dump. Actually, the PPP government was following the footsteps of its founding leader, Zulfikar. In each change in the regime in Pakistan, we saw an acceleration in Baloch genocide. We saw mass graves in Nawaz Sharif's era, and we are facing encounters in the Imran Khan regime. There are some points I want to skip those because as I talked of the relations and historical injustices and occupation, I can say our relation with Pakistan is not very old. Though it is because Pakistan is not an old country, and when we talk of Baloch and Balochistan, we have a great civilization, a rich history, culture. Pakistan is the first post-colonial project in our neighborhood. Hadn't it been the blessings of the British, the Pakistan had not been founded. And also, hadn't it been the blessings of the British, Pakistan could not occupy us. Pakistani military invasion has made the life of common people miserable. They have turned the whole of Balochistan into a garrison and a playing ground for their army. Thousands of military camps and checkpoints conduct regular checks, disturbing the routine life of the common people. At each checkpoint, an uneducated, hate-filled soldier pumped with religious extremism disrespects our women and respected elders. The Baloch resistance against the occupation was peaceful for a long time. Many tried the so-called Pakistan parliament. Many of our elites and leaders went to the parliament and tried it. When we talk of Nawab Haidat Mari, Nawab Akbar Khan Mufti, Shahid Walas Mari, all participated in the parliament. What was the result? Betrayal, military operations, further exploitation, atomic tests, and the systematic genocide. How can one be peaceful in the face of genocide? It is a shame when you ask an occupied people to be peaceful. It is a shame when you ask them not to resist. It is a shame when you ask them to give up their way of life and subdue to the terror of the military gun. When we talk of the parliament, even today, some of those elites, tribal chiefs like Sardar Mengal and others who are present in the Pakistani parliament, who listens to that? I continue with the other point which other speakers also mentioned here in the discussions. When we talk of Pakistani institutions, including the media, intellectual, civil society, the business community, and courts, they all are watching the situation of Balochistan as a spectator. Pakistani radio, newspapers, TV channels, and talk shows celebrate the killing of Baloch people. Pakistani media has played a vital role in genocide. In this genocide, they have desensitized their masses. When we were talking about the Punjabi people and people of the other regions, it was the responsibility of the media to convey the real message, the real situation there. But they have decided to keep silence. So they have desensitized their masses and normalized the genocide. These Pakistani institutions and other individuals became equal partners in crime. We can talk also our Sindhi friends and Uyghurs who is not present there. I have noted points for them also. Pakistan was earlier Pakistan was alone in inflicting atrocities on us. Pakistan was also alone inflicting atrocities on Baltistanis, the Pashtuns, and Sindhis. Now it has got an expansionist and aggressive partner in the form of China. China has joined hands to carry on the Baloch genocide. Their main purpose is to exploit the resources of Balochistan, Sindh, and Balochistan, and other lands of their First Nations. Yes, they have a vast experience in exploitation and genocide. From Tibet to East Turkestan, as our friend Dulken was here, he was talking about this situation. From Hong Kong to Taiwan, China is a country that has no respect for human rights and humanity in its own country. As we speak here, more than 2 million Uyghur Muslims suffer in the concentration camps. They suffer under daily torture and face a similar genocide as I already spoke of. Same, China has joined hands with Pakistan, as we talked of CPEC and this. And this aggressive China has invested billions of dollars in his imperialist projects in Balochistan. They have joined hands with Pakistan, so they have joined hands with Pakistan in Baloch genocide to achieve their imperialist projects. It has plans to settle around 500,000 Chinese in the Baloch city of Azad. Our national movement is a liberation movement from Pakistani occupation. We believe our liberation movement is an inspiration for the oppressed people of the entire region. Not only because we are fighting against Pakistan, the center of the world terrorism, but also we are fighting for the survival of cultural diversity, empowerment of nations, and the rights of the oppressed ethnic minorities in the region. We are indirectly fighting against China, the ally of Pakistan, a big power, economic power in today's world. We are fighting against its imperialistic presence in Gwadar. Our success means safeguarding the interests and the way of life of many other minorities who are bound to fall prey to Chinese hegemony. Apart from the exploitation of our natural resources, the Chinese presence on the Strait of Hormuz in Gwadar port is bound to have negative economic and military effects on this region and the world. I thank all of you once again. I hope we join hands in similar way in the future to stand up for liberty and peace. Thanks. I have written it, but there will be a lot of repetition. As I mentioned, I want to like to have some words in Balochi. Some issues were being raised there. संगठन रखते गपजा वाजा गपजा एडमाबाद गपजा इसके जियो में चीज़ें सरा या के इतिहास या के नज़दीकी सरा मिचला ये अच्छी पॉइंट है ये अच्छी लगती गप्पा सरा कसमती के प्याय मनाज़ी ना या के हमारा प्रेस विदा मुझे प्याय ये रहा हमारा तुम्हारा शक्ति आसानी तरह दिन तरबा मारुति नाम लेगी खासकर ये मछली कॉन्फ्रेंस से दालोटाने मकसद और मेरा नेशनल इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास है वर्तमान लोटाने मकसद अब हमेशा क्या आएगा कि गप्पा ये रखना वो गप्पा को पत्नी बहुत ही मीटिंग है तनिंदा बल्कि माउंट्रा को धुंधिया या फिर सारा ये ना दे मोती व्यक्तियों को धुंधिया बल्कि नगे हमारे वाली का میرے کہتا کہ ہمیں کمزوریاں ہمیں گپا کو دیا ہمارے مشکل کا نام کہ واجہ ہم شادی ہو رہا ہے کہ ہمیں پولیٹیکل پارٹیاں کارے بڑے نکننتے بلے موت سرکلان تنیندا میں گپا یہ ہوا کہ مشکل نکنے یا نہ مشکل کی میرا پانچ کے دیوان میں اٹھانتا واجہ شادی ہو رہا میں پتا میں چیک کریں کہ BNM میں سنگت سوال کو کہ اسٹیٹمنٹ تیار ہے یہاں مردمان سوالات دے شکبار ہے BNM نے مگا مرچی ہے واجہ ہمیں کبھی سکتا BNM نے مگا من شورٹی دے کہ BNM درست بلوچ پولیٹیکل تنظیم آگا جو ہیومن رائٹس آرگنائزیشن آگا ہم ضرور آولی کارا آولی طریقہ کارا یا کہ آولی تو کہ موجودی مردمہ مچارا یا کہ اتیادی واجہ جنتا کو افیکٹ کیا سکتا ہے مثال ہے پتہ مرچی دا ہمیں کیا دے کہ BNM یہ چیز واسطہ تیار ہے یہ چیز دیما پر واسطہ کہ اپریل ماہ میں سیشن ختم ہوتا مئی ماہ ماہ دو مدنے پولیٹیکل پارٹی کے FPA میں کی BRP ممبرات کو نشان سیدھے ترے مردم یا اس طرح یا کہ دوسرا ماہ نشان لیڈر پر سلام دین جاتا میں سلام دین رہے مقصد ہوتا کہ مطلوب دین حال والے کا یہ حال والا پر یہ تنظیمات سے یک تنظیمیں نمیگا دو رندہ چار رندہ ایکسپریس سرکار ہوتا ہو یا تنظیمیں نمیگا مردم یا منا پرسنلی جس کا مجھتا جا ہوتا یا کی چیزیں سرا یا کہ مائگری ہوتا یا ہوتا ہو گا پکنا اولی گپ ہمیں ہوتا ہے یہ گپا بلکہ ہم گیشتر مرد اتفاق کرنے کہ پا اتفاقی نمیگا پا اتحادی نمیگا پا نزدیکی واسطہ یک جہدی سطح یا بزدی سطح ہم آہنگی ہمکاری ضروری ہے ماغو واجہ نصیر دشتی صاحبہ گستگی ماہ گپ جتا ہیومن رائٹس سیکشن میں ایک اگریمنٹ کے جو کتا ہے کہ نزدیکی جو کتا ہے وجہ یہ ہوتا کہ ماں نصیر دشتی صاحبہ یا ٹیٹفونی سر یہ پر نہ کتا ماں نصیر دشتی صاحبہ آدمی مردمہ ورکرہ ایکٹیوسٹ ہے جس طرح ایک کی دنیا کو ہاتھ ہوتا ہے ایک نزدیکی ایک کمانگی ہوتا پورا یہ چیز آسان جو ہوتا ماں ہمیں گپ فارمولہ یہ شکلہ ہمیں تنظیمان دے میں ہوتا کہ اسی بنیاد یہ اڑا شروع بھی تھی کہ پہلے ماشاء نندہ ماشاء ایک جگہ اختیار کرنا ایک جگہ مشہور مردم نندہ پورا مشہور نیکسٹ اسٹپا دے ترہ سکتے ہیں پیچی کلی دے میں بعد اور مردمش کا سانے شروع کرنا اسی واسطہ ایک بھی کام سے واسطہ دوستے ہیں موجود ہیں مردم خاص کر زون ہے کیبنٹ پائی ممبران سب کی بلائے محنت ہے آزان ہے کہ 2 ماہ ہمیں اس طرح کھا رہا ہے ایک پیمانہ تک رسطہ مرچیئے یہ نے ایک سوڈمن دیوانے آسر پوگائی اسے کی محنت ہونے یہ دیوان واسطہ ہمارا انویٹیشن لیٹر ماں پا ڈاکٹر نصیر دشتی صاحبہ کی تو دیتا تھا ہمارا انویٹیشن لیٹر ماں وستگی کے اسپیکر اتم آؤں پر دیتا تھا ہمیں انویٹیشن لیٹر پا بلوچ پارٹی FPA اور بلوچ پارٹی BRP آؤں دیتا تھا کہ شمیں مردم بیانے دا باہر حضورا شمیں اتی مردم بھائی سیدھی اسپیکر دین دیتے مارا کی اسپیکر پینل تک گونی کرنا مقصد ہمیں ہوتا کہ یہ اسٹیپ یہ قدم یہ ہمانگی یہ بنیادہ چمک چیدہ یہ بھی پدر مقلان دے قدم دینا فٹ کرنا اگر میں مرچی مان ہمیں امید کرنا کہ بعض مردمان اگر ندیستہ مجھے گرگرہ اگر ہمیں تعلق BRP و FPA میں او آونی مرکزہ آونی گشتہ کی جو برے مرچیے یہ نئے میں کام سے باہر بزوری انشاءاللہ گپی بلے من ہمیں محسوس کریں گے کہ ہاں اذا کسرہ گوشت نویتا کے برے باہر بزوری پتہ کہ آخری گوشتہ تک یہ دوئی تنظیمانی ہوگا منا جواب مرستا کہ یس یا نور میں مرتبہ ہے یا نئے میں باہر بزوری نظورا بلے یہ گپ مقصد نہیں کہ باہر کھا رہے گا دے یہ آئیڈیاز کی مچھیدہ شیئر ہوتا گا یہ واجب کرنا Ayesha discuss करते हैं इस सबकी शामिल पॉइंट है पॉइंट दोस्त बेसिकली एक जिम्मेदारी संगति है मर्दमा को डिस्कस करना संगठन डिस्कस करना ये आपको देवा وقتی دا نوشتی اینه که بچی میں ایڈوکیشن کی مردمہ قبول نہ کرتا موضوع دا چیز ختم نہیں چیز دا ختم نہیں موضوع نہیں ہوگا تو اس کو شامل کریں.
جی آپ کی طرف سے جی ہمارے گروپ پہ ہوتا اور ہمارا بہار کی طرف سے بالکل کوشچن بھی تھا جی یہ نے اچھ پروگرام بھی کچھ باہر بزی ہے نا جی یہ کوشچن نہیں تھا کہ شو گرو ہے یا مارو ہے نا ہر یہ کوشچن بھی تھا کہ بی این ایم اچھ پروگرام بھی اچھ کنڈی اور لازم باہر بزی تھا جی انہیں وجہ میں بازی سنگتی بی آر پی دا آپ کا
بتائی کرتی جی 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 اشارے گپے چونکہ محمد کی انویٹیشن مرکزہ کا تھا مرکزہ جواب نہ تھا ایک فیکٹ تھی شاید اپنی زونل لیول گپا ہی زونل لیول عسکر ہم ایک انویٹیشن ارادہ تھا اگر عسکر رشتہ چیزیں ایڈ کرنے کی ایڈ پہ کرتے ہیں پہ جنہیں عسکر
normally they go BRT سب کے joining coordination ہے no doubt about it. Whenever we have a program, we always just make a phone call to the responsible person and they just respond us in a positive way. So actually, you can say north and between BNM and BRT. And as far as BNM is concerned, we have tried to contact them at every time. But unfortunately, we said that in this forum that we have always been denied by them. Just because that they have their own position and maybe their position is right person as they are following the constitution of the party. We believe that when we want to start a program, when we want to make a joint form of struggle and diaspora, then this is very necessary for each and every party that we should fight, because as a member of BNM, as a member of BRT, as a member of FBN, you are also responsible. You should not wait for your upper central position that they should direct you for each and everything. As a donor, as a diaspora committee, you have a power. You can use your power against or in favor of whatever we are going to do. But unfortunately, we have always been denied by FBN friends, because they believe that it is very important. We should not start from the basic the zone level. We should start from the higher level and then come to the regional or zonal level. So as far as BRT is concerned, we have a very good coordination, and it has been going on, and hopefully this will keep going in future too.
نہ کو بی ایف پی سنگ تے کو میں سے ضرور کچھ میں سنگ تان کی پیچھے میں غلطی ڈالتے ہیں تو مینشن کریں آمین ملتا ہے کہ
دیگه کسی اگه سوالی هسته چا هرچ بالتا کشت کنه شما
سوال یہ تاپی ہستے نا
جی
اردو ہمارے شطر ہے
بلوچیا پہ کٹے اردو والا ہاں بس
اور زبان آئی کو متعلق بول رہا ہوں مردمان اور میں سیاسی لیڈر نا تب وہ چم اور دماغ حاضر کرنے ہوتا مطلب وہ ڈیپر نا نوزدہ سن پنجو یکا ایک آئینی بنتا پاکستان تو آئینے تحت گوشت بیتا کہ بنگلہ دیش بھی آتی میں دور بیتا انہیں گھوما پاکستانی گھوما کہ پنجابی جو سیاسی لیڈر بیتا آیا گوشتا بنگالی لیڈرانا ایسے میں بک کے تو مطلب میں نے ڈاکر ڈوبتے ہوئے دیکھا ہم شیتوں کا مونتا پنجابی گوشتا بھی میں آبادی زیادہ ہے ہمارا بجٹ زیادہ بھی دیتا ہوں پاکستان سیاسی لیڈر نے گوشتا کہ بھائی میں صوبہ رقبہ زیادہ ہے تو میرے آبادی دے میں رقبہ زیادہ ہے میں رقبہ ایسا ہوا بجٹ دے آیا نا ایگری کو تو کہ مطلب ہمیں کہیں ٹگار انتے گئے گوشت کریں کہ ٹگی سے ہم بنتا ہو ٹگی لیکن اب تا تو شاید مکہ آئی نہیں بنتا 1973 आटे में बांग्लादेश 1971 माराची आजाद दिता पाकिस्तानाची अलग दिता बादशाह में आइन तो का लिखते था बड़ा मैं बलूच ना थे लीडर दिखते का आया और सभी शो बंगाली ना बचता कि आज सूबा ये रकबा ज्यादा है शुमा ये ज्यादा बजट देता मर्ची गया है कि पाकिस्तान को का बलूचिस्तान रकबा मजे ने कि बलूचिस्तान इससे ज्यादा कहते हैं तो इधर पंजाबी सियासतदान होता ना ये पंजाब पे आबादी ज्यादा है जो से पंजाब पर ज्यादा जर मिली तो मां नजारा देवतरांगा में छे टग्गी करना है टग्गी को में और देवतरा बेटे मैं जो सियासी लीडर या जो सियासी कुव्वत था इशानी एक एक चीज से नजर है बेटा बेचारा कि कुजा में पदा कराड़े में भी पदा टग्गी में भी चिया के ये हमारे जब तक 1947 से ये सजे कॉमन चक्कर रे न गया है टग्गी और दूरी सर बड़ा देखिए मतलब का पहले माना हमने कब का निकली अभी उससे
BNM और BRP सरोकी संगठन गुश्ता और सरोकी संगठन शुमारा है छोड़े रिस्पॉन्स ना रस्ता बल्कि जोनल संगठन के अस्ता हम यूनिट संगठन अतका इसमें के बलूच नौजवान इत्तेहाद नियम रागे वास्ते तैयार है बल लीडरशिप पे गुड़ा मजबूरी छिया क्या आई चीज़ा डिमार्क न का अगर ये चीज़ इस तरह मनी जिंदर साल मच्ची बुर्दे में जर्मनी तो का मौजूदा पार्टियों की प्रोग्राम बनते हैं आम जोनल संगत की भूमि को निंदा को हमकारी तैयार हैं भले अक्सर मदिस्ता से कुछ पार्टी के भी लीडरशिप पे निम गई चीज़ा में लगें दे कि और की पता आम सियासी वर्क कराने चीज़ से इनकरेज पे कर कि आस्ते आस्ते ये चीज़ देमा करो
ये वजन जवाबदार ना कि मौती का जवाबदार एक ही मौती बियर की संगत तो शेदा मौजूद हम मां हमें पॉइंट असला शुरू एक को के मां उसका क्या हो सुशील जागा के तो बुरदा रवान करें मतलब इनवाइट करने गए तो ब्याह तो वर्तमान दे दे तो संगठन ने इदा एक हमांगी जो भी देवत्र कार मशहूर आसान हो बलोच नेशनल फ्रंट के जो गए एक्सट्रीम आसान को एक दो मीटिंग का जोड़ भी थे व्यवस्था के बच्चा के ऐसा BNM BRP बलोच वुमेन फोरम बलोच राइट्स वाजे जस्मिन गवाह हमरा होता मतलब जोड़ी बच्चा की BNM BRP ये आदि अच्छी गाला पंचशन BSO आजाद इसे दोस्तों वर्क करानी नाम एक हमांगी होता ये दोस्तों वर्क करानी नाम एक हमांगी होता ये हमांगी का लीडरशिप का सर होता ता लीडरशिप का सर होता और इसे दो मीटिंग होती है BNM पे चीज जोड़ कुछ करता मां हमें मिसाल हमें दरबार में था हमें वर्तमान कम्युनिकेशन रहता था हमें वर्तमान में हाल और तो फिर मैं ब्याह इदा स्टार्ट करने जो के प्रेसिडेंट क्या मेंशन को के आलूट गए बुर्रा वाले चीजें भी पता चला गया ये नामुमकिन नहीं बल्कि ये हैरान करने चीजें भी मंगो दो मीटिंग का ब्याह बुशी दा एक इत्यादि जोड़े जहाँ कस्ती शुरू सापर मवे परसमाई हैरान करने चीजें भी पर इदा से चीज तैयार करो मुतबरों आसन फिर भी लीडरशिप मजबूत करेगी भी आउनी मसला चाहिए रिकावट चाहिए हर किसी जवाब इनके अलावा शख्सियत के मांगे लफ्ज़ भी नहीं बल्कि किसी जी किसी गिलाफा होगा किसी मसला जिन मसले लिस्टे में होगा मैंने वर्क आउट में
Pangoshan jaký sawal kita, tiga sawal este, gora muito programa anda alaskani. हमें न तो आला द्रोस्ते मर्दमानी जो मर्ची अटकेगा उनकी टाइम कष्टके मार जाती है या शादी और अनकायला सब जोड़े एक चीज बिता डिस्कशन बिता बाज़ी गपन बाता गपजन बिता और बाज़ी सवाल हम पर बिता सवाल में जवाब दे बिता और मैं तो आला जो सजना ने कि शुमा इंगेज को था और दिन कराम इंशाल्लाह मार्च प्रोग्राम में करने बड़ा ब्याह का सच्ची मैं तो आयशा बात